before we begin. So everybody take a deep breath, get into your bodies. Ogo, Tumaligaligasa Tinitunisada, Usuana Nitunisada, Kano Vanitunisada. Grandfather, Great Spirit, Spirit that lives in all things, God, Jesus, one of many names. We thank you for this day. We thank you for our lives. We thank you for all of our loved ones. We thank you for all in existence. We thank you for your love that is unconditional. And we thank you for everything inside and out. Like the eagle that teaches us that we too can soar high and see far. Like the salmon that teaches us that we too can come home to you. Like the trees that teaches us we need to be rooted in order to be strong and grow tall. Like the owl that teaches us that we too can see in the dark. These and many teachings that are born of your love. We thank you for this, and we thank you for this sacred circle. Aho, Kahalakораnis.
Thank you. So, to those of you who may not know me, I'll give a bit of context. I'm Yael, I'm from Israel. I was a single mom there when I was a TED translator, and I saw a video of a man from the other side of the world speaking about things I felt when I gave birth, like, hello, my other self. When my girl came out of me, she was a proof that we are all really our other selves. She was myself a second ago, and now she's my other self forever. And he was saying it. And so I had to translate it, and I contacted him. And now we're married here in Alaska, and the 2 kids are in the room. So that's to make a long story short. So, yeah, I think I'm having, I thought I would do it another way, but this is coming up. So I'm listening to this moment, and apparently every encounter is a co-creation. So this wants to emerge now. So one of the things that happened, we actually became a couple, discovered that we both secretly loved each other from afar when he came to Israel 2 years after I saw that video. And we had some ceremony. He conducted some ceremonies along the bodies of water in Israel. The Sea of Salt, which you know as the Dead Sea. We call it the Sea of Salt in Hebrew, and the Jordan River and the Sea of Galilee. And when he was there, he felt the very wounded energies of the area. And it was very painful for him. And he said, I said, let's do some talks and some dialogues between people and sides, because there are so many different sides to Israel and its population. And he said, before we do anything, we have to heal the energies. And I said, okay, how? I didn't know anything. And he said, the women should work with the water. And I said, okay. We came to these bodies of water, and I said, what do we do? And he said, you want to say it?
No.
Okay. In order to heal something, you don't need to work at healing it. You don't need to do any special thing. You just need to envision it as healed with every cell of your body. Envision it as healed, not as healing, but as healed. Know that it is healed and it will be healed. And we did that. And then I took that and did that with other things in my life, both physical and non-physical, and with my kids, and it works magically. And then I turned into the masculine imbalance that I felt outside, but also in me. And I was looking to heal that, and I realized I don't know what healed masculine looks like. And so how am I going to envision something as healed when I don't know what it looks like? And the more I got to be with Kuyach, the more I learned what that means. And I realized we need to bring that forth. But as our Elder Rita Blumenstein here says, before you heal something, before you let go of something, you need to see it for what it is. So maybe a little bit about yourself, where you're from, who you are.
Agwan, Kelam Bekamna, Kelam Kasuda, Tigunangan Way, Unanganasafta Kuyach, Tinkawalangan Way. I said, hello, my other self, which is the way we greet each other amongst my people every day. And we are people of the Bering Sea, which we've been out there for over 10,000 years and we're still there. And I said that the morning tastes good, this morning here. That's another way of saying good morning, but it's adds a little spice to it when you say Kamala Kasuda. I said my traditional name is Kuyach, which means like an arm extending out from the body, carrier of ancient knowledge into modern times, messenger. And that name was given to me when I was 4 years old by the last Kuyach that was left alive amongst my people. Now I'm living the legacy of my name. I guess one of the most important things I would attribute my wisdom to is my people, who have taught me much of what I know today. I had a traditional upbringing. I was in the last generation and had a traditional upbringing. So, for example, at 4 years old, to get to know my grandfather and for my grandfather to get to know me, I had to live with him 24/7 for 2 years, starting at age 4. And we would go down to the Bering Sea, take our shirts off and splash ourselves while we prayed towards the east. And that night we might be going to the Russian Orthodox Church because we saw no difference in where one found one's spirituality, not religion, but spirituality. And one day after the prayer, we started to walk on the island. I was born on an island that's 12 miles, well, I don't know what the meters would be, but 12 miles long and 5 miles wide. A very small island in the middle of the Bering Sea with, at that time when I was a child, we had 1.2 million northern fur seals, 2.5 million seabirds, and 1,000 reindeer and 500 Unangan people as a child. And anyway, we were walking out one day, the Merculieff Islands, which these islands, the group of islands are called, there are 5 islands. 2 of them are inhabited. The largest settlement in the world of Unangan people is on St. Paul Island. And that's where I grew up. And we were walking out one day, and the island is known as, we call it Tanach Amich, which means land of mother's brother. And it's also the land which is the birthplace of the winds. And so it's windy there all the time and overcast or foggy. We get 20 days of sunshine a year. So one day when we went out, it was so beautiful. The sea was flat calm and the sky was blue and the birds were singing and the seals were barking, and I just was so overwhelmed. I said, "It's sure beautiful." And he goes like this, "Tutuda." He just said one word, "Tutuda," which means listen. And that probably encapsulated why and how our people lived in the Bering Sea for over 10,000 years. That he said, listen. And what that means to my people is that the most important experiences of the human being is to experience the thing and not put it into words, because as soon as we do, we diminish the meaning. And this was the basis on which my people lived in the Bering Sea. But we came originally, according to our stories, from Egypt to Outer Mongolia, to Siberia, to Kamchatka, and across by traditional boat, not across the Bering land bridges, as most scientists speculate. And we developed the most densely populated linear mile of shoreline in all of North America for our time, in a place that's very hard to eke out a living along the Aleutian chain. It's a place that is scarce in vegetation, and we have a lot of mountains. And we built this large nation out of an understanding that we needed to be the real human being, which is the definition of a real human being is someone present in the moment and in the heart, and with the understanding that everything else would be taken care of. And this is something that most people don't realize, because we've invented scarcity like we invented body order. You know, we invent scarcity and we think that that's part of the natural cycle. But Aho, the maker, the spirit that lives in all things, gave us everything that we need to survive and thrive as human beings if we live the proper way. And so my people didn't plan for the future. I mean, we're the only people, I think, in Alaska that didn't have footwear even in the wintertime. And we didn't have food storage technologies except for air drying. And we were the only people that didn't have food storage technologies. And when I asked my elder on St. Paul Island, what is this? What is this? Is this? And he said, look at that seabird. Do you think it worries about where it gets its food the next day? And are we any different? And the answer, of course, is no, that we are created to be present in the moment and in the heart. And the rest is taken care of. And indeed, the rest was taken care of for my people because we developed the most densely populated linear mile of shoreline in North America. And so my generation, as I said, had a very traditional upbringing where the entire village raised me. I had to spend equal time with the men, equal time with the women, equal time with the elders, equal time with my peers. And my job with my peers was just to play. And the adult's job, contrary to what it is today all over the world, was to create the space for a child to learn, not tell them what to learn, how to learn, or define anything. And I grew up not asking any questions. And this is ingenious because it allows us to expand to the maximum of our capability without the interference of an adult. The only time the adult would intercede would be when a child might be in a dangerous situation. And we lived that way for thousands of years. And so I guess that would be enough of an introduction.
Okay. So in many of your talks, you speak about the masculine imbalance that we are in. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah. Based on our stories, the masculine imbalance began, or the latest iteration of the masculine imbalance began 4,000 to 6,000 years ago. Prior to that time, it was like a pendulum swinging back and forth between masculine imbalance and feminine imbalance. And the last swing was the masculine imbalance that began 4,000 to 6,000 years ago, that's still with us here today. And we have these stories about why these imbalances began. And this is very true even today, if you examine it, because we left our hearts and we went to the mind, and only the mind, as the masculine is represented by the top, the brain, and not in the heart. And we're still living in that imbalance today. When you look at creation, or what human beings, and I would say man in this case, created, it's all around us. The masculine imbalance is manifested in everything that we have created today, everything. And that when we have it for thousands of years, we take it for granted that this is the way things are normally, but they are abnormal. And this swing took us and has taken us to this place that we have today of the everything that's created, the social injustices, the political corruption, the refugees, the gross violation of women, the violation of Mother Earth, the violation of Mother Earth-based cultures. The elders knew at that time that all things feminine would be grossly violated during this time. They were communicating across the world by the internet, not the internet. And we call that the language of one, where we could communicate with anything and everything in creation. And during this communication, the elders were discussing how or what to do about these sacred teachings we call the original instructions. These original instructions were templated equally across the world at one point in time, made only different by the culture, the language, and the vibration of the land. But other than that, they were identical. And this resulted in us creating time. Time began when we left the infinite moment. Now you hear sages throughout the world say, you know, when we're present in the moment, there is no time. And when we enjoy things so much, especially as children, for example, there's no sense of time. And that time began because we invented it. And we invented it when we left our hearts, and we left our hearts because of the guilt, shame, remorse, anger, rage, jealousy, all these things from the past that live with us here today, or fear, which is projection into the future of something that hasn't happened yet. Every place except the proverbial now. And what the elders are saying now, I work with elders from all over the world. They're saying that we have to change our consciousness now, and from the mind to the heart. Before, the heart used to tell the mind what to do, and now the mind tells the heart what to do. The Yupik elders here call this reverse society, or the inside out society, because we reversed all the laws for living. And the most salient one is that we change from the heart to the mind. And now the mind is guiding everything, including our creation of solutions to today's issues that you're facing personally and professionally all over the world. that these things that we're suffering personally, professionally, are all, according to the elders that I work with, going in the incorrect direction. That we are focused, we have people all over the world, good people, good heart, focused on trying to stop these things that we know are not right. And, the political corruption, the refugees, the wars, we've been praying for the end of wars for thousands of years, and yet wars are still happening. And we don't know why. And we don't take stock of why. And the elders are saying that, when we pray to the Creator, the indigenous people across the world, when they pray to the Creator, they pray to give thanks and gratitude only. They don't pray like to a Santa Claus God, where, please give me this, give me that, please help my friend. Always give, that we human beings are doing. But the indigenous people, what they do is give gratitude and thanks, because we have been given everything that we need, and that these things that we are suffering from are created by people, and it's up to us to clean it up. And so, yeah.
Can you speak about the perception or the role of the masculine in your Unangan culture?
Today or historically?
Whatever you feel like.
Yeah, well, historically, we were a feminine-based culture. We had a matrilineal culture, and it was a shaman, the women that initiated our shamans. It wasn't the other way around. And the men would always do things in honor of the feminine. Even when we went out hunting in our traditional skin craft, we call ikyak and ulochtans, our skin boats. The boat is made in such a way that it is our second wife, so to speak, and that we always honor everything that we are doing, including what we are preparing for the hunt. And all these things are feminine based. And so that's the way that traditionally we were raised. But nowadays across the world, including in the Pribilof Island, we have forgotten that. And we have become male centered. I remember the times when I was a leader on the island. I had been a leader there for about 30 years. That I had to break the ice for women. For example, women up until 1973, believe it or not, weren't allowed to drive. And I said, well, heck, we'll get an opportunity to show that women can drive. And we had these big Terex trucks that were building the boat harbor. And the tires are bigger than a tall man. And I said, well, okay, we'll hire 2 women from the island to drive these big Terex trucks. And the truck itself must be over 30 feet high. And so I taught two women. I took the youngest, most aggressive women that wasn't afraid of anything, and taught them how to drive a pickup, a stick shift in my pickup. From that point, they went to the Terex trucks, and it was quite amazing to see a woman driving down the road in this Terex truck and saying hi to the man in the tiny little vehicle they were driving. That's just an example of what we had to do during that time. But it's something that has plagued our world for years and years and years, as most of you women, or all of you women know, that these things have existed. And then to think about how your grandmother had you inside of your mother when your mother was in her womb. And then you have, then your mother birthed you, and with that came the direct lineage memories of suffering under the masculine imbalance. And then you are born a woman, a female, and you suffer what you experienced during your lifetime. And then you have the collective consciousness of women that remembers these thousands of years of suffering due to the masculine imbalance. Now we are coming to a point where the elders that I work with around the world say that we have the chance of stopping this pendulum from going back and forth and stop in dead center. Think about that. During this lifetime.
How?
How?
What is the role of women, if you will? What is the role of men?
The role of, we have this story about the womb at the center of the universe. And it's a place of creation and creativity. For lack of a better way to put it, we call it the womb at the center of the universe because it's feminine based. And this is how we got our original instructions. We didn't invent our instructions. They came to us from the womb at the center of the universe. And the identical field of energy is in every woman. And in the womb, a place of creation and creativity. And it is said that when women get together in sisterhood, heal themselves, then they can project this container that is within them to the outside so something new can be created. Until that happens, nothing new is going to be created. I mean, you think about, we went to hybrid fuels, right? Supposedly a good idea. The US decided to go to hybrid fuels. I mean, even the current president is pursuing electric cars. But hybrid fuels, what happened as soon as the US decided to go into it was to have a lot of farmers around the world drop food crops to fuel crops. And that increased the price of food for everybody in the world and increased starvation. And that's just one example I can give you out of thousands of what results when we try to do something different with the same consciousness that creates the issue in the first place. I mean, Einstein said you can't solve the problems with the same consciousness that created the problems. You have to be able to shift your consciousness. But shifting one's consciousness is a very difficult job.
Okay, you say that women have the same energetic field as the womb at the center of the universe. Do men or people that don't identify themselves as women, do they have any way of connecting to that womb at the center of the universe?
Oh, yes. I mean, I did. And, I did when I was 13 years old. And I was lamenting about how, our people used to make these incredible ceremonial masks. And I was lamenting the fact that nobody does it anymore. I didn't know how to do that. And so I decided to go to the oldest man in the village. He was 88 years old at the time. His name was Aggie, because his grandfather was the last shaman on the island. And I was telling him of my lament, and he said, no, it has never been lost. You want to find it, you go out to the ocean on the shoreline and take up a stick and a rock and beat them together to the rhythm of the ocean, to the rhythm of the wind, to the rhythm of the animals around, the birds and the seal, and keep it up until you find that rhythm. And then you go to your center and set your intention after you get out of your mind, and wait. Well, that sounds simple enough, but to get out of your mind, I learned how to do that when I was 6 years old. I can still do it for hours. Most people don't know what that's like. And so I could get out of my mind. Go to my center means going to my proverbial heart center and the center of the river of life, because it knows where it's going. We don't. And then set your intention. How do you set your intention without thought? You set your intention without thought by embodying it, by at the cellular level. You have trust in yourself, trust in life processes, trust in Mother Earth, trust in the universe, trust in a whole, the maker. All of this trust is embodied in your body when you set your intention. And then wait means, well, this is something that most people are beginning to understand, but really most don't. And that is the definition of faith. The definition of faith is to have all of these things embodied in you and trusting that the answer will come. Trusting that the answer will come. And when you do that, then it does come. I knew, because I stayed out there for a couple of hours, and then I just let go and waited and for the answer. And after a couple, 3 hours, a small dot shows up in my mind's eye, and out of this place came, it got bigger and bigger, the hole got bigger and bigger, and then out of it came at least 100 different masks, all completely different. And I thought, I'm not an artist. I draw stick people. And so I thought, well, maybe I'm imagining this. So I go back to the elder, Aggie, and he said, "Echam nekoch lakaya." Good boy. You touch the womb at the center of the universe. This is where we get all of our information from and our guidance about what to do. And so that was when I got it, when I was 13 years old. And women have this, all people have this ability, but women especially, because women used to be considered sacred all over the world at one point in time, because they had the womb inside of them. And we forgot that. And many women have forgotten that. Women are starting to get it now, because from, I do 2 seminars or webinars or whatever you call them a week for the last year that's gone worldwide. And I see that people are getting it, the women especially. When you go to healing retreats or meditation retreats, there might be 20, 30 women there and only 2 men. We've got to be able to get to the point where we bring the men along. the women are going to take the lead during this time. This is what has been understood by all the indigenous people who have connections with their land and waters for thousands of years, are saying that the women are going to take the lead during this time. And the reason that that's important is because the elders are saying that the world is changing rapidly. She's raising in consciousness. And as she raises in consciousness, it hits our bodies. We're connected to Mother Earth. And so what's in us is in her, and vice versa. That she is changing her vibration, and it's hitting us humans. And this vibration hits the deepest, darkest things within us that we haven't been able to deal with, and pushing it to the surface. This is why people, the Hopi Maori say, take nothing personally during this time, because everyone's going through something. And we can talk about what's happening today later, but for now.
So actually, Kat just put in the chat box something that is very beautiful, and at the end is a question. Kat, would you be willing to unmute yourself and be recorded asking the question?
Sure. I think I was describing Kuyuk's wisdom. So what I heard you say is that faith is trusting the answer will come when all of the intention is embodied in our heart, and it yields an emerging response. And in your case, it was in the third eye, and that we are receiving guidance from the womb at the center of the universe. So for women, does that mean our gut feeling?
Well, gut feeling is part of what your heart does. Intuition is, again, there's something the Masculine Imbalance has put down is intuition, especially women's intuition. This is all part of the makeup of the real human being. And so, yes, you need to listen, and to listen to your heart requires getting rid of all the clutter in the brain that is created by this masculine imbalance for thousands of years. But women can heal like this. It takes us men 40, 50, sometimes a lifetime to get something, but women can get it like this if they get together in sisterhood. And when you do that, then you're ready to apply what you know to the world. Maybe Yael, you could give an example of what happened in CSO.
Before that, I want to address what Kat asked, and I think even the wording gut feeling is masculine imbalance, because I think it's really a womb feeling. But since men don't carry one, and we've all forgotten the womb so much, then we go to gut feeling. But actually, the only place in the body where a heart can beat besides your chest is your womb. So when Queer says go to your heart, we have the womb and the blood and the heart and the blood. So it's that language. And we have that extra place of knowing, if you will. And so I think it's really a womb feeling. And if men realize that they also have a womb feeling, then maybe we'll begin to listen to our heart even more.
Yeah, when I uncovered the fact that I too have my moon time, believe it or not, as men, we would just laugh about it, because how could a man have this kind of thing? But we do. How do we do that?
It began when Kuya would tell me, I don't know, I just want to be in bed and just like go inwards. I don't want to do anything. I don't know what's happening. And I'm like, I'm having my moon time. I think we're synced. So yeah. But you wanted me to tell about the man at the Sea of Salt.
Yeah.
No, it was the Sea of Galilee, actually.
Oh.
So when Queer came to Israel, what?
No, not the man.
Not the man?
No.
Then what?
What happened at Sea of Salt?
Oh,
After the women
okay,
conducted their
sorry.
ceremony.
So Queer started his tour in Israel at the Sea of Salt, the Dead Sea, and what we did, what he guided us to do was always start at night with only women gathering, forming like a womb, and doing some woman's work. Like he would just get us into a state of mind, if you will, or state of heart, and pull away and let women do their work, which was a lot of disharmony at first, because it took us time to understand or not understand and surrender to what was happening. And eventually, after that, we would have at the sunrise a ceremony that's open for everybody. And after that, a workshop that happened in each of the bodies of water, the Sea of Salt, the Jordan River, and the Sea of Galilee. And in the Sea of Salt, it was the first one. It was very intimate, like this circle, and very accurate. Something about it was very pure. And the year after, in the winter, it's a desert. Around the Sea of Salt, it's the Jehuda Desert. Nothing grows there, ever. And just, it was flourishing with flowers abundantly. It was on the news everywhere. Like I was visiting here. Oh, it was actually the summer. Yeah, because I was visiting here and I was seeing the pictures there. So it was just beautiful. It was a few months after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the men's work is to protect the sacred space of women so that they can do their work. And we came to one example in Israel. Now you can tell a story.
That story. Okay, so that happened on the Sea of Galilee. Was the last one that we did. We went upstream, if you will. And so Queer said, okay, by now we had people coming to all of the sessions, and it was like a journey, and Queer felt that we are now ripe enough for women to do their sacred work with men present, protecting the sacred space of women. And so he gave a talk to everybody and explained that this is what's going to happen now. And there was a fire in the middle of the women's circle. We were forming a circle. It's women, 2 circles actually. There were many women, and in the middle there was a fire, and the fire keeper was a man. And so we started forming this circle of women, and men were standing on the outside, and they were facing outwards, protecting whatever may threaten it from the outside. And I was closing my eyes and like humming with the other women, tuning in. And all of a sudden I felt this really strange, like a disruptive energy. And I opened my eyes and I just saw the fire, and then I looked beside me, and the firekeeper, which was a man, was there by my side at the women's circle. And that's the energy that I felt. And I gently, like I marked with my hand, I gestured, please back out, but he wouldn't. And then eventually I touched his shoulder, and he wouldn't budge. And I froze. I didn't know what to do, because I was like, okay, this is a sacred situation. Am I going to start a physical fight with him? Or I just didn't know what to do. And then I thought, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is only me. Maybe it's, and this woman saw that I was bewildered, and she came to me and she said, would you like me to help you just pull him away? And then another woman came to her and said, sister, know your place, and took her away. And and then I just put my leg in front of his face. I just put my leg there, and he backed out. And I started just, something came out of me about the wounded feminine. And I just felt so like I felt like I was supposed to hold the space, and I failed. And afterwards I apologized to the women. And in a virtual women's group, because that was, after that was the end of really of his trip. I tried to speak to that man. He wasn't willing to speak to me at that time. And Kuyach just said, okay, whatever needs to emerge in this situation emerges. And you remember what you said?
No.
Someone asked you. Someone asked him, but what is this telling us? And Kuyach said that we as men think we need to protect. You say yes, so you know? Okay.
Yeah.
We need to protect, we think we need to protect from the other, from the outside, from them, but actually we need to look inwards. We were facing outwards, but we were needing to look inwards and protect. When you protect from your other self, you need to start with protecting the other self in you. And so after that, I just apologized to the women, and I described what I went through, and I was like, I'm sorry, I failed so bad. And so many women resonated with that and said, thank you, because I was feeling the same. And now we can look at this wound that is so mutual to so many of us, and we can start working on it collectively. And yeah, from that, many good things emerged.
Yep, it's so true that, as the sages have said over the ages, that we need to first look at ourselves and look inside, not look outside for our answers. And, you know, everybody's a guru today. There's no singular guru. You are all gurus because you have the answers. You know, the Creator didn't put you here for no reason at all during this time. We've got very challenging times to the human survival. Mother Earth has lived for billions of years. She's going to live for billions more. But it's a question about whether or not we humans are going to survive. And it's going to be decided by people in this lifetime from your heart. And that your heart, you know, my experience with my heart has been that it is perfect in guiding me in every which way. That the solutions come from the heart. It's not logical, it's not rational. This is something in a masculine imbalance world that's very difficult to understand, but that your answers are within you if you can take away all the mush in the head, the monkey mind, as they call it, as Tibetans call it, the monkey mind. If you can move these things out of the way, process them, and let it go, then you can hear your heart clearly, and your heart always guides you impeccably right. If we just choose to listen to it. And when you listen to it, you will find that your heart knows what your gift is for the world during this time. You're not going to find it logically or rationally in the brain. It's going to be found in your hearts. And that gift is for the world right now. That yes, it helps you, but really, ultimately, it is to help the world.
I just want to end the story from before, because I realized I didn't give you the very closure. That after a few months, that man that went into the circle approached me and said he felt that he wants to talk to me, and I'm never ready to talk. And of course, I said, let's talk about it. And he said it was very difficult for him too, because he felt he was guided by unseen forces to tend to the fire, because he accepted this responsibility for the fire. And so he felt that the fire was going to go out if he doesn't tend to it. And he felt that us women were not happy about it. And it was very uncomfortable. So it was very healing to share my experience and for him to share his experience, and for both of us to share, you know, the sometimes you don't need necessarily to agree on what is true. Like in the womb, we have nausea and hunger at the same time. When I was pregnant, first time it happened, I thought I was going crazy because it's normally either or. But we women know that we all know that there is a different possibility, yet we are in this masculine imbalance of choose either or, just one. And here we both expanded into understanding the other person's truth, and that was already healing. And I think what it made me realize is that even when there are other forces, we are here on Earth with our fellow human beings. And so we need to listen not only to our own things, but also, or which very many times get confused with our egos, but also what is good for the good of our other selves.
Okay,
Should we?
you can open it up.
Yeah, should we open it up for whoever has a question?
I just say I
You can.
appreciate you.
There's
Thank you. I appreciate you, and I have to go to work now. Thank you very much, everyone. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Will.
By the way, those of you who are here are meant to be here at this moment in time. And so I'm very thankful for that. And, you know, the elders say, it doesn't matter how many people you talk with, the people who show up in your gathering are meant to be there. So thank you.
Diane, do you want to ask the question that you put in the chat box?
Sure, and I apologize that I can't activate my video, but my question is, I'm just wondering if there's some simple ways that we can get together in sisterhood, either, you know, more intentionally and carefully or on a regular basis, wherever we are, to allow some of the healing and the sacred work to take place. I think you mentioned just that gathering and sisterhood being very powerful for moving forward. And I'm wondering what shapes that could take, what that could look like.
You won't like this answer. Go to your heart and see what your heart is telling you to do. You know, my job is to lay out what I know, and our job is to do that. And it's not to be concerned about who gets what and what is picked up. What you pick up is your own sacred path. It's none of my business what you do with what I'm sharing. My job is to lay out what I know. And so anyway, when I say go to the heart for the answer, that's really true. There is, you know, many Native people, indigenous people have, you know, before we used to worry about how much of our sacred ceremonies are going to be taken up and exploited by outsiders, and that anybody who creates a ceremony, you can't do it. But this is not true. The elders that I met with in 2017 in Kauai were elders from all over the world. And this is what I'm reflecting is what they know. And what we do know is that people have thought that they have forgotten their sacred ways. but it is not true. This was shown to me by the elders in the Morley Reserve when I was there. They were conducting a sacred ceremony at a battered women's shelter that they hadn't performed in 150 years. And they were all white hair, and they all wore regalia, buckskin. And they only spoke their own language. And they conducted this 4-hour ceremony with 4 sacred pipes in the 4 directions. And in the middle of the ceremony, about 2 hours later, he spoke English for the first time that I was there. I mean, you know, I couldn't understand what they were saying, but I could understand what they were doing. And so I did my thing, which I was taught as a child: watch, listen, learn. So I did. And the elder spoke up and said, you know, I noticed that the 4 pipes that they had in the 4 directions, they were all lit, and the smoke didn't go upwards. It went sideways and weaved with the other smoke from the other pipes. Then I knew I was with real elders. And so he said, we know that you, why you're here. And I thought I was there because they invited me, but no, they knew different. And they said, we know we've been praying to the Creator, and we have a message for you to carry. And that message is that we know that you and many of your people think that they have lost their spiritual ways, but we want you to know that this is not true. It's been held for you, waiting for you to wake up in spirit by the beings in the unseen world. And that was it. And I found that wisdom to be very, very true. So if you are thinking about creating a ceremony, get out of the mind. The mind will not guide you properly. Your heart will guide you properly as to what you need to do. And the elders that I work with say, this is the time that, you know, we filmed the elders gathering in 14 and a half minute film that it was launched last year with these elders. And if you're interested in it, Yael is putting the address of it so you can see the film. And that I asked them how much of this could we film, and they said, well, we don't want anything hidden. The time for secrets is done, and that we need each other around the world, and that when people get out of their minds and in their hearts, they will create the ceremony that is needed for this time where they are. And so that's hopefully an answer.
Mel wanted to ask a question. She raised her hand.
What?
Mel.
Hi. I want to say thank you so much, and it was very moving on so many levels. Thank you for everything so far, and watching you too is so wonderful, and how you interact. My question is, can you describe to us and give us examples of some of the healed masculine and how you feel it can show up for today, and perhaps how we as women and men can hold space for the healed masculine to experience today? Thank you.
Yeah, you know, many people have forgotten what the healed masculine is and why it is. Now, we recognize a masculine and feminine side of ourselves. And there's a function that goes beyond function as to why we're this way. One of which is that we can unify the dualities within us. And if we don't, here's the masculine, I'll bash my feminine side. And when I pray, the masculine is upwards and outwards. The feminine is downwards and inwards. It's what we Native people have always understood for ages. You know, you've heard about the sunrise ceremony, for example. That's a male construct, and it is it goes clockwise, and it is prayer that goes upwards. There's a counterpart that is not heard of very much, and that's the touchdown, and is run by women, and it goes counterclockwise and downwards. This is to keep the balance between the masculine and feminine. And so we have the same thing inside of us. And when we pray, it goes outwards. When we are wounded female inside of us, women wounded feminine, we have difficulty in receiving that which we're praying for, and vice versa. That if we're feminine, we're bashing our masculine, then the masculine is weak, and it sends out a weak prayer. And one thing about prayer, by the way, is that as I explained, when we pray, we only give thanks to.
You tell the story of the man at the desert that was praying.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah, well, I was at a ceremony performed by the medicine man in a tribe in the western United States. And it was in the desert. It hadn't rained there for 9 years. And I watched him doing what I thought was a rain dance, praying for rain. And so I after he finished, then it started raining. It hadn't rained there for 9 years. And so I asked him, well, so you've been praying for rain? He says, no, I've been giving thanks for the rain. This is another example of how faith can literally move mountains. He was able to do that because he trusted fully in what would be. And whatever it was, be it rain or no rain, he trusted the process to have meaning. And so that's how he did it. What was I talking about?
The sacred masculine.
Sacred masculine. Yeah. And so we do that in the prayer, the healed masculine. When we do that in prayer, the healed masculine is also present in the moment and in the heart. Your heart is guiding you to do whatever it is to do. The Yupik elders call this reverse society, or the inside out society, because we reversed all the laws for living, as I said. And so one of the reversals is that we now have the mind telling the heart what to do, and the mind even tells your consciousness, hey, I'm the heart speaking. But only those with discernment can tell the difference. Now, the discernment comes when you are successful in getting into your heart. Then you can discern what is really heart and what is really mind. So during this time, it's important, the elders say, as the light comes up, the darkness will come up with it. Equal for a period of time. Now, this is the darkness, but it's darkness that is not healthy, not in harmony with the rest of the universe. And it will come up, we're experiencing that now. We see this masculine imbalance coming up, and it seems to be very strong. But what that masculine imbalance does not recognize is that there are millions of people that are waking up. They're asking now, we know everything that we're doing doesn't work. What do we do now? And that's when messengers like me would come up with our messages. But the healthy feminine is hard to describe.
The healthy masculine.
Healthy masculine, sorry, is hard to describe. Maybe you can.
Kuyach often tells me it's the woman who gives the man to the man, and it's the man who gives the woman to the woman. And so when I was trying to discuss the sacred masculine with him, sometimes he says, I don't know. I don't even know what you see. So I'll tell you what I've experienced with him. Especially being Unangan, I'm Jewish, I speak with my hands, lots of words, you know, tones changing. You see how he speaks, not exactly the same way. So he would say sometimes the same words in the same tone. And I realized that sometimes he says it and I laugh. Sometimes he says it and I don't do anything. Sometimes he says it and I snap. And it's like, I get that he said the exact same thing yesterday. Like, why do I snap? And all of a sudden I see I'm in a different place in my cycle. Women are constant change, right? We have a cycle and it's never the same. I mean, it has its phases, but it's a different egg that is being released each time. Men are, and you know, and the pregnancy, and then the blood, and then the milk, and then the no milk, and then the no blood. I mean, we are constant change. I think maybe this is why we can negotiate times of change in a better way. Actually, one of my elders here, Marie, my Yupik elder, told me that in ancient times, women here used to gather and form ceremonies during in between the seasons to help the whole community go through the change, because women know change. And all of a sudden I could see through him how stable he is and how relaxing it is to have that stability and to be able to then see myself, and how frightening it is for a man to be by the side of a woman when they don't realize their cycles as much. And then a woman is just this crazy thing where sometimes you step on the same place. It's not even a minefield, because you could place your foot in the exact same place, and sometimes she'll blow up and sometimes she doesn't. And so this is really helpful for us to like realize this through the differences.
Yep, and you know, it's like a stereotype. I've gone to men's locker rooms, and what are they talking about? They're talking about the football game, what the banking, what the stock market's doing, and all that kind of stuff. When I sit with women, they're talking about relationship to self, relationship to your friend and your family, and all that kind of thing. And this is a time when we need relationship really desperately, because we are so out of sync in relationship to ourselves and to others and to Mother Earth, that if we understand this, then you can understand that, for example, when we started the pandemic, and you know, the whole world shut down. And what happened was the animals were showing up where humans used to be. And you could see the Himalayas from India for the first time in 30 years. And the ozone layer above the north healed. This is Mother Earth showing how quickly she can heal if we take stock of what we're doing. And this is something that hopefully many of you have seen happen and realize that it is Mother Earth that is talking. Mother Earth has also brought this pandemic, and we think of it as an enemy. We have wars against it. And Native people, they say, well, this has been created by Mother Earth to because she is crying, and that she has to use this level of creation to help us wake up. when we don't do it, if we don't wake up, we're going to experience much harder things than the pandemic today. And I can't emphasize that enough. That and the only thing that we can do, Don Alejandro, who was from the Mayan, he kept the day calendar for the Mayan people. He and I spent a week together in Canada, and he said the people who are going to negotiate this time the best are going to be people of the fire, which means people of the heart. And this is what most of the indigenous people who are getting their voices heard are saying now. And that we also have this prophecy around the world that says there will come a time when the world will look towards indigenous people for solutions to what we are facing today. And this is definitely the most important one.
Deborah, can you unmute and ask your next question?
Just take my hand down, I guess, too. Hello. It's nice to meet you, Yael. I have known Kuyak for years. I have the conference you're talking about that you were with Don Alejandro was when I was first met Larry, and so I've been our paths cross, and I can feel today an awakening again of some things that went dormant since the time I saw you last. I saw you last, Larry, at the Parliament of World Religions. We crossed then. And so I'm aware that I need to stay a little closer because I do, it goes dormant and I don't want it to go dormant this time. It's not, there's no time left for that, right? So, but my question was, I went to a workshop that you held at Six Nations here in Ontario. And you had talked at that time about this practice of gibberish as a way to support you to drop into the present moment. And I will say I was neglectful in that practice. And I recently came across a breathwork teacher, and he was again talking about this practice of gibberish to drop into the present moment. And I would just like you to kind of help reinvigorate me and inspire me around that as a part of the practice of being present, if you can.
Yeah, thank you for that question. You know, when I asked the elders, what's the basis of our cultures in Alaska, they're all Inupiat, Yupik, Dene, Unungan, they all mean the real human being or the human being. It's a code from the past to the present about being present in the moment and in the heart. That's what the real human being is. And what it means is, you know, when I asked the elder what's the basis of our culture, he said, look at the 2-year-old child. That is our teacher, the 2-year-old child. And when you see a 2-year-old child, I mean, I was at a conference of Native people in a big circle, 2,000 people, and in walks, in the middle of the circle, a 2-year-old child, buck naked. She wasn't conscious, self-conscious about her appearance. She just who she is. We all know that who are mothers, those of you who are mothers, you know that the 2-year-old child is magical. And that when they get angry, they just engage their whole bodies, you know, just, and they might be angry at their buddy who they're fighting with because they were playing together and they did something and they get mad. But then you notice that after a couple of minutes, they're done and they're playing with their buddies again. You know, the 2-year-old child doesn't have all these layers that we grew up with that through adulthood. And this is the being that is in direct connection with the divine, and can show us how we must be. And the thing that is so important about this is that the information underneath it is that we are energy beings. And we know through scientific research and all that kind of stuff, and the Heart Math Institute and all those, we are energy beings. And, you know, a 2-year-old child is an energy being. When you go to, you're a stranger and you walk into a room with a 2-year-old child, the child either loves you or just crying and afraid of you because they're feeling your energy. And that when we understand that we're energy beings, the elder said, you know, we dance, we sing, we chant and all these kinds of things because we know that it's necessary for us to keep as human beings, to allow this energy to go out. And that if it doesn't go out, Rita Blumenstein, our elder, says, you know, it becomes like a stagnant pool within your body. And that stagnant pool will make you sick. And that you need to let go of these energies. And we live in a society where it's not permissible to emote. You can, you know, a man that cries in a business meeting, that's a no-no. You know, and the TV news anchor that emotes, that's a no-no unless it's something really, really sad. And so we have got to the point where we become so stiff. You know, the talking head, literally the talking head. We don't move our heads very much. We don't express very much. We don't move our faces very much. We don't emote. And what we have to do, the 2-year-old child teaches us, we have got to emote. If it's not safe where you are now, when you're emoting, then let go and say to that passion or that emotion, I will get to you, and do get to it, because it's very important during this time of becoming a real human being. Now, it's hard to explain what it is. It's much easier to demonstrate it. And so it's like trying to get a 2-dimensional being to understand what a 3rd dimension is. Unless you experience it, you don't know what it is. And so one of the ways to do that is gibberish. Also, you know, what does a 2-year-old child do? They laugh, and, you know, or they cry. You can use all of those to let go of the energy that is within you, that may have piled up for years. I think that this is probably the most important thing we could do right now, is just learn how to emote. And so I tell people, okay, you want to experience what it means. Try gibberish and do gibberish for an hour for 30 days. Obviously, you got to do it in a place that's safe because people might think you're crazy. But then, you know, each time and after you do the gibberish, you lay down and just experience what that feeling is. And you will experience maybe a few seconds of being present in the moment. And the longer you do it, the bigger that feeling gets. So after 30 days of doing that, you're on the way to transformation.
And that also answers Rainbow's question in the chat box about how to stop thinking. Andrea Menard, can you ask us the next question? And then Niels.
Hello,
Well,
Andrea.
hello, my friends, my dear friends. It's good to see you too. I would love you to expand a little bit on that gibberish because, you know, I as a singer and an actor, I've got very good at expressing, and I help others with that. But I haven't heard of this one before, because I know using sound helps, right? It basically has to move from here out the mouth through sound, and children do that so well. So my question is, are you using the gibberish when you literally have no access to the feelings, or when the feelings are there and you don't know how to actually get them out? Because I love the idea. I just don't know when you use it and what, because I can see why, but when.
Yeah, it's now gibberish is more than just sound. When I help people do gibberish, I not only let them help them to say gibberish, you also express in ways that you haven't done because we're in such an expressionless society, and you inflect your voice up and down. And so these are just aspects of the gibberish, but the thing is, when you first started off, you might not be able to access those feelings, but you just try it just to experience it for a few seconds. And that is like a window that opens up for a split second. You see what it is that you're trying to do, and you keep doing it, and eventually it gets stronger.
And as someone who's living with him, he uses it whenever. Like sometimes I would speak Hebrew to my kids and he'd get into the conversation, totally gibberishing, so just whenever your heart tells you to, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, that's true. That's good.
He agrees with me sometimes. Niels, can you give us the next question, please? Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your beautiful words. And maybe you'll...
Oh, he froze.
But I would like to phrase a question about childhood trauma and generational trauma, how that interacts with the toxic masculinity, and also indigenous way of dealing with that may influence the way we collectively could heal more. Because my sense is the layers between that disconnect us from the heart is partly because of these traumas also that we carry.
I want to tell a story.
Okay.
I want to tell a story about him that's very related to that. So, and I think it will give you a very strong sense of what sacred masculine is and how healing it can be. So when I first got to Alaska a year and a half ago with my kids, and soon after my 9-year-old had her birthday. And they didn't have the language yet, my girls, and the whole immigration thing. And so
English language.
Yeah, they didn't have the English language. They came here without English, only Hebrew. And so it was hard for her to communicate with friends. So I made this entire game that I was working on, and I invented everything, and it was full of riddles that could be solved without language, and to have all of her school friends come and engage. And I was working days on this. I was just like, this has to work. I have to help her get friends. And he wasn't into it. He was like, yeah, sure, do it. But he wasn't helping. And a part of me was expecting him to help. And he wasn't. And then we had the birthday, and I was exhausted. I was working day and night on this. And eventually, I think it was even the cleaning up that he just did some part of it. And then he was, okay, I think my part is done. And he went without even saying it. And I just lost it. I was just like, what are you thinking? Why don't you help? And you say you love them. And this is how you show up. And, you know, actions speak louder than words. And, you know, and I've been a single mom for 7 years before I met him. So I was like, I'm willing to do this on my own, but let's just be honest with it. And then I was talking to my best friend on the phone. I was telling her, and we started a real fight. And he was telling me, I'm not your enemy. And I was like, so start acting like someone who's my ally and not my enemy. And I was telling my friend, and he said that, and I said that, and then he did that, and I did this, and giving her all the details. And she's listening, and she's Israeli, and she knows me for 20 years. And then she says, Yaeli, there's violence. And I was shocked. I said, look, you know, maybe I misexplained, because he's the most gentle person ever. There's no violence. I am hurt, but he's not hurtful. And so, and she said, no, Yaeli, the violence is not on his side. And I was shocked. I was like, what do you, but I was the one offended. What do you mean? I'm right. I'm okay. I did everything. I'm the victim here. And then she said, if you are the victim and you are holding on to that, what does that make him? And poof, it was just like, she exploded my consciousness at the time completely, because I realized if I am expecting him to do certain things, and then I'm like, if I'm putting my foot under his, then it's true, he's stepping on my foot, but is it his fault or is it my doing? And all of a sudden I could see that I'm holding on. I'm so afraid of being the offender that I'm making sure that I'm the victim and he's the victimizer. And also sometimes I am the savior, because I'm allowing myself to be either the victim or the savior, but not the victimizer. And so it's just like when you tie you want to play jumping rope, and you can tie it to a chair and still just one has to roll it and it's rolling, but I'm just tying him and I'm doing the rolling of this horrific triangle of victim, victimizer, savior. And for him, it's, I mean, the fact that he doesn't help with a certain thing does not mean that he's trying to tell me something without words and all these things that I have made. And for us women, many times we see that how everything is connected. But if we are not in balance, it could be shackling. Everything is not only connecting us, but it shackles us and we are trapped. And with men, they have the ability to let go. If they're not in balance, that becomes a disconnection. But when it's balanced together, it's the connectedness. And if we let go of, that brings me to your question, Nils, about all of a sudden I realized how much of this trauma is built on the triangle of victim, victimizer, savior. And it was just amazing, because when she said that, I just dropped it and it shattered. And it doesn't exist anymore in our relationship. Sometimes we hurt each other, but it's not that I'm thinking, oh, he's paying back for what I did then. And now, you know, I told him when I first met him, every time I said no in my former life, I had to pay a price. Many women, every time, just like with the man at the Dead Sea, there was no question. I was saying no to him. He did not accept the no. And for us women, many times we are not physically more powerful than the people or the person telling us your no does not exist. And so just to be able to have that is very freeing.
Yeah, and what I would add is, you know, my people were suffered like the Jews. We had our own Holocaust, where 80% of our population was wiped out in 50 years. And like the Japanese Americans, we were interned in camp by the US government. where we lost 10% of our population due to starvation and disease, or malnutrition and disease rather. And like the Black Americans, we were enslaved, first by the Russians and then by the American government. This is something that most people don't understand. I was born a slave and raised a slave. You know, it's indescribable kind of thing. But at the same time, I had this traditional upbringing where the elders never showed any bitterness or hatred or anger or gave any indication through their energy that they were hateful or angry. And they said, you know, if you have any bitterness or hatred for something that is done by somebody, you not only hurt yourself, but you hurt others because you try to hurt them. And what it does is hurt you more and hurt your people. And this is the example, but we have suffered intergenerational trauma. The way that traditionally we deal with those traumas, well, for example, I went to a village here in Alaska where the village was concerned about this guy who tried to kill himself. So they called him into a gathering. They put him in the center of the circle. There was this huge village circle. And then each one of the people that were in attendance would say why they thought he was valuable, why they thought he was good, why they thought all these kinds of positive things that went around the whole village. This is just one example of focusing on something that need to be healed. And you know, I went to a meeting of with the Yupik elders where there were 400 people gathered, and the elders did something totally unprecedented, which was to take over the meeting or take over the election. And they weren't concerned about who was going to get elected, but they were concerned about how. And there were two of the prime people that were running for the prime chief of 54 villages were at each other's throats. And it was creating disharmony in all the villages, 56 villages. And friends wouldn't want to be seen with friends. And it broke out into council meetings and board meetings. So the elders took over. They said, we took over this election because of the disharmony it's creating in our villages. We have only 2 rules for this election. They were gathered, there were about 400 people gathered in a gymnasium, and the people were witnessing what was happening. And the elder said, first of all, each candidate will speak about the other candidate and we'll select who speaks about who. And secondly, the person who speaks the most truthful, good things about the other will be the winner of this election. And you know, the candidates knew that if they lied or exaggerated what they said, the elders would know it and you're automatically disqualified. And so the two got together and one said, you know, I know so-and-so, and she processes the food properly. She teaches her kids, she teaches others, she shares her food. And then the other person said, well, I know Joe, and he is a good hunter, a good fisherman. He provides food for everybody in the extended family, et cetera, et cetera. She teaches his kids. And the woman stood up and said, I have said bad things about you. And I should not have, and I ask for your forgiveness. And the guy stood up and he said, you know, I've done the same thing. And they hugged each other. And there wasn't a dry eye in the place of 400 people. And the dispute or the differences in politics went by the wayside in 56 villages in 3 days. That's an example of thinking from the heart, that when you come from the heart, you are able, because love is greater than any other thing out there, including the traumas.
Okay, I think we have maybe one last question and then we'll adjourn. Rainbow, you had some questions in the chat box. Would you like to unmute and ask them? Rainbow, can you speak your questions? Oh, she's not able with her device. So let me go back. Here. Besides protecting and holding space for women's work, what would you say is the essence of the divine masculine and his work in the world?
Well, when the masculine is in alignment with the feminine and alignment with everything in the universe, it's said that whatever is in alignment and in harmony with the universe will succeed in getting on. The rest is going to be dismantled, and that when we act, if we act from the heart, then it will help us to understand and to know what it is that we can do as men that will help the world. And one of those undoubtedly is the sacred feminine. If we understand the role of the sacred feminine within ourselves and with others, then we can safely move forward in doing things that are in harmony with the universe. Until that happens, it's not going to be possible. So men, we have our work cut out for us to heal that which is necessary to heal in order to join the women in helping to save the human race.
Okay, I have one last question that's coming to me. Because we've been speaking about masculine and feminine, but also men and women in a very binary way. And so what about people who don't identify themselves in such a binary way, like two spirits?
Well, that's a good question. My people, which is the matrilineal culture, always understood that the masculine and feminine need to come into balance and need to be unified, and that LGBT plus people, they already have it. They already have it, and that they're looked towards as leaders when they were healthy. But now, through the masculine imbalance, they've been damaged so much, so many of them, that they have forgotten what their place is. And so when they get back to that place, ultimately spirit is not masculine and feminine, and it is both. But it's unified, and that the separation thing that happens is counter to what our mission is in life, which is to unify the dualities. And the LGBT plus community is part of that. When they're restored back to their health, when we help them restore their own health back, they will assume their places as leaders that understand the unification of the dualities. And so this is part of what we look forward to if we still have enough time, because the elders are saying we don't have much time left as human beings. And you, during this lifetime, are the ones that are going to decide whether or not we survive. And so, but we do this, and I do this certainly because I feel that there's great hope. If enough people change their consciousness, then the world will shift.
Thank you. Closing prayer. Do you want the drum?
Yeah. Okay, we're going to close now, and I'm going to say sing a closing song in Unangan. And this song is very old. It was made before the Russians came. Anana ganantana akuya akuya. Tamanzagen. Ayagagili tayohili. Aganana ganantana akuya akuya. Wakunaya ganan wakuntaya honan. Asikukimen aluli aladakali the king. This is a song by, it was created by a man out in his ikyak, his traditional craft. He was out to sea for several weeks and wanted to connect with humans again. And so he went near the shoreline, went along the shoreline until he saw people. And he said, I see people over there, I see men over there, I see women over there, I see children over there. I'm going to sing with them, I'm going to dance with them, I'm going to dream with them. So that's a good ending. Okay, thank you very much for